Hello. Today I'm going to have a conversation with Mr. Nobu Wanchuk. He is the Director General of the South Asia Cooperative Environment Program, SACEP. He assumed this office in October 2024. So, Mr. Wanchuk, SACEP is an intergovernmental organization. Your members are the governments of Afghanistan, Bangladesh, Bhutan, India, Maldives, Nepal, Pakistan, and Sri Lanka. What is SACEP about? How do you introduce the organization to someone who knows nothing about it?
Well, thank you very much, Nalaka, for having me to this important conversation, I suppose. SACEP, South Asia Environment Program, was established way back in 1982 to focus on climate change and environment. And what amazes me is this was established at a time when climate change and environment was not in a popular discourse. But the South Asian leadership then, 1982, had that foresight to know that South Asia region and globally that we would be confronted with climate change challenges and environment challenges. So that is a interesting wisdom that the leaders had. And another thing that amazes me is that that climate change and environment should be addressed. The challenges should be addressed through cooperation and collaboration, and that's why the institution of this intergovernmental organization that was also envisaged. And today, the SACEP is perhaps one of the earliest intergovernmental organization instituted in our region. And more than the period in the past, I think SACEP is much more relevant today than any time in its existence, given the climate change issues, given the environmental challenges that we are faced with, and then therefore the need for the member countries to come together to fight as a collective entity, because otherwise there's no way that single country, single organization, single agency can overcome this crisis that we are faced with. So yes, this is what SACEP is, and this is what we are doing.
Yeah, indeed. The C in your name, SACEP, stands for cooperative, and regional cooperation has been at the heart of everything you do in this South Asian region. There was another ideal in the founding documents that I found on your website. That is a need to integrate environment and development as essential requirements for sustainable development. Does that vision still continue?
Oh, very much, Nalaka. And I mean, in the past, 20 years, 30 years ago, perhaps the countries and the nations had this choice of either the economic development or the environmental conservation, preservation, protection. And now today, I think this is not the framing of the development we need. Now there is no choice but to take economy and environment together. This is not a question of this or that. It is both. Yes. How do we take our economy? How do we progress and grow our economy within the context of the need for preservation, conservation, protection of environment? So this is a very important mandate that SACEP shoulders.
Right. So coming back to regional cooperation, it's an ideal, it's an aspiration, but what does it mean in practice? What kind of activities ensure there is regional cooperation among the 8 countries and the governments that make up your membership?
So, Nalaka, if you look into the geography of South Asia, South Asia is truly one geographical entity. The political divide of the country is a very late, recent insertion. But as a geographical entity, we share the mountains, the glacial mountains. We share about 60 rivers that crisscross our country. We share the ocean bodies. We share biodiversity. We share the air shed. So there is no way but through cooperation and collaboration that we must approach our fight towards this battling the climate change and environment. And so in terms of practice on the ground, that is why we have as a setup of SACEP, the governing council where the members are the environment and climate change ministers of the member countries, and the ministers, governing council members are supported by what we call the national focal points, who are the secretaries of the member countries, secretaries in charge of climate change and environment. And then depending on the subject area, the expertise, the member countries would depute the experts to look after the areas that needed to be looked after in the SACEP mandate.
Yeah, and at a practical level, so the governing council meets, sets your policies, gives the directions, and there is a secretariat based in Colombo, Sri Lanka, that implements that mandate, implements programs and projects. Now you're in your fifth decade, the organization is 42, 43 years old. In your fifth decade of existence, what have been the main accomplishments so far, if you look back quickly?
Nalaka, just very recently, where Secretariat, we organize what is called the consultative committee meeting. And this was the 139th consultative committee meetings. And I cannot think of any other organizations, intergovernmental organizations, who would have in a series, in a row, without a break, to be able to organize and bring together the South Asian nations together to deliberate and take decisions on climate change and environment. So this in itself, in a region which is geopolitically very complex, with a lot of challenges amongst ourselves and within ourselves, such a diverse and complex region that we are faced with, yet we are able to achieve, in one sense, being able to come together and keep the spirit of collaboration, cooperation going on. In terms of the concrete areas of collaboration and achievement, I would say in areas of, for instance, Malay Declaration is the ambition that the South Asian nations has come together and said, we need to fight air quality. We need to ensure that we have good air quality in the region. And again, as far back as 1997, and a lot of work is going on, had been going on those front. We have the nations who share the coastal areas, another body who looks after marine affairs, maritime affairs, marine litter. For instance, we have a framework amongst the South Asian nations to contingency response framework to respond to emergencies such as oil spill and chemical spills. We also look after the coral reef, the invasive species. Then the more recent perhaps an accomplishment and an area of engagement that we are engaged with is the waste management, especially looking into the plastic waste. And this is a 6-country project funded by World Bank, and so many activities, so many projects are put in place in the member countries, and now looking into the transboundary issues of waste management. So a lot of achievement there, Nalaka.
Yeah, I believe that last point refers to the PLEASE project, the Plastic Free Rivers and Seas for South Asia project, started in mid-2020 and has been implemented now for nearly 5 years and one more year left. And its aim is to catalyze actions that reduce the flow of plastic pollution into South Asian seas. What measures has the PLEASE project taken to tackle so much of plastic waste flowing down the rivers that end up in the South Asian seas?
But Nalakat, you know more than anybody else the gravity of the crisis, waste management crisis that the world as a whole is facing, and particularly so in our region. If I may just give some statistics, we generate about 350 metric tons of plastic annually, and out of which only 4% is recycled, which means where does the 96% go? And this is where the plastic is littered on the land, into the rivers, into the oceans, into the drains, and into the air as well by the open air burning. And this is a serious issue that our region is faced with. And so this is something that the PLEASE project is designed to tackle this issue. And I'm so happy to let you know that there had been very significant impact as a result of the PLEASE project, which is to say that now the governments have sort of, if I may use the term, are on full throttle to fight this plastic crisis. Already looking into the policies and enforcement and infrastructure and putting in the resources, bringing in the private sector, looking into the innovations, focusing on the circularity, the economy. So a lot of work is going on under the PLEASE project. We are so happy that we have been a part of this and be able to facilitate this entire process.
Right. So air quality is another big challenge. You refer to the Malé Declaration, which was adopted now nearly 30 years ago. Since then, the air quality in South Asia has actually deteriorated. And today, when you look at international rankings, South Asia has most of the top 10 and top 20 highest polluted cities in the world with the worst air quality. So how can regional cooperation help tackle air pollution? Malé Declaration provides a framework, but are the governments willing to cooperate because pollution travels across borders very easily?
Yes, definitely. And I say this with confidence because in the recent Governing Council meeting that we had in Thimphu, one of the important decisions taken by the Governing Council was that the Malé Declaration now needs to be revitalized. And essentially, the Governing Council was saying that we need to make this Malé Declaration address the new emerging challenges and the intensity and the magnitude of challenge that we are faced in terms of air quality. And you are right that now lockdowns, we are aware of the COVID lockdowns, but now what is normalizing is green lockdowns. We have schools shut down, we have public spaces rendered uninhabitable. So every government, every country are aware, acutely aware of the devastations and the risk that poor air quality would have on the inhabitants. And that's why there is this instruction to revitalize the Malé Declaration. And also the recognition that pollutions, climate change, impacts of climate change, and especially the air pollution is transboundary. The air does not know political borders. The air flows, the pollutants, they cross the political borders, and therefore the need for an approach to be to tackle it collaboratively as one single entity. There are a lot of actors. The government has taken keen interest. If you look into the investments that are going on, if you look into the commitments that each country has, initiatives that each countries have taken up, and then the new multilateral organizations, the interest that they are showing. ECMOT is an organization that is doing a lot of work on air quality. World Bank is coming in a big way. So we are hopeful that through all of these partners and actors collaborating, and with the nations, South Asian nations coming together, we can solve and address this air quality. We are not going to reinvent the wheel, and we have examples and models of how it is done.
So what's missing? Is it the funding? Is it the technical know-how, or the political will, or all of the above?
And I think, Nalaka, there is a horde of problem, challenges, I would say challenges, and therefore opportunities. The challenges of simple things like putting in place monitoring stations, having an access to good data, then interpreting and analyzing the data, then information sharing, and then looking into innovative ways of how we tackle this air pollution. But I think on the bottom line is the leadership. Whether as South Asian countries, we would be able to demonstrate leadership to actually significantly and sincerely tackle air quality. And by the looks of it, as I meet the member countries at various levels, I'm confident that there is this leadership now emerging. And with this leadership, all the challenges will turn into opportunities.
You had a meeting recently in early June in Bangkok for senior officials from 6 South Asian countries to review and revitalize the Mali Declaration, and it was aptly themed from ambition to action. There, in your remarks, you highlighted the need for renewed political will and strategic partnerships to breathe new life into the initiative. Your words. What did the meeting achieve?
So, although under the Mali Declaration, a lot of initiatives and programs had been put in place, but it had not been enough. And the evidence is because the air quality has deteriorated. And so therefore, ambition to action is the theme that we discussed in Bangkok, and where we had representatives of the member countries to really take stock of what are the gaps, what are the challenges, what are the opportunities, who are the new actors, what kind of multilateral partnership that we can forge, and so move forward so that now it is not rhetoric, but actually getting down to the action. And I think the Bangkok workshop on air quality, the ambition to action has spurred this need for coming together once again and actually commit to actions rather than on the rhetoric and making commitments and making ambitions. And I think it was a important workshop to once again revitalize Mali Declaration, and also look how it can be it can go together. There's other important initiative, the IGP, Indo Gangetic Plains and Himalayan Foothills initiative led by the World Bank. And so this is also on airshade based air quality program, and how Mali Declaration can collaborate, partner, and see how we can take this forward. So there had been important discussions there.
I can see we have one question. Please keep your questions coming. But you mentioned climate change and that SACEP had seen early on the challenges posed by climate change. And in fact, the Governing Council in 2005 had recognize adaptation to climate change as a key area of concern. Since then, of course, you regard climate adaptation as a priority, and adaptation means many things across many sectors to protect lives, to livelihoods from the inevitable climate impacts. What interventions in climate adaptation has SACEP focused on? Anything in particular?
Well, one of the ways that SACEP as a secretariat functions is in collaboration with our member countries. And so, depending on the need of the member countries, SACEP would come in to see how SACEP can be of service. And so, under the climate change, many initiatives have been taken at an individual level in the countries. Our focus had been to facilitate some of these, and also to see how together as South Asian countries we could have knowledge sharing, capacity building. So this is on the climate change front, but maybe perhaps related to is something that not many people know of, is great amount of work that has gone into the marine sphere, the marine space. SACEP is a focal point sort of for coral reef report generation, the global report generation. And we are as I mentioned early on, we are the focal point for oil and chemical spills. A lot of work is going under the Please project on marine litter. And there are many other things that is an opportunity for SACEP where we can serve our needs of the member countries individually and as a region.
Yeah, I have just a couple of questions more. As an intergovernmental organization, governments are your main stakeholders. How do you engage others like technical experts, civil society, corporate sector? Do you work with these other stakeholders as well?
Sure. And while the sort of maybe if I may use the term, the political decisions of whether to go ahead with the program or project is made by the governments, the scientific community plays a major role. The NGOs and the civil society plays a major role as well. The academics. This is demonstrated so well in the Please project, the waste management project, the plastic project that we have done. So it was a good blend of inclusive blend of key stakeholders working together to make South Asia plastic free in our rivers and seas. So we had the governments, we have the private sector in the form of what we call the grantees, who are the boots on the ground, actually picking up plastic and recycling it, reusing it, redesigning it. Then we have the NGOs who had been a part of that process in the ground level. And we have the scientific community. We have UNOPS assisting us. So there's a whole range of stakeholders that had been in place. So we do have that framework to involve the scientific community, the academia, the civil society, the private sector.
Yeah, indeed. I think the Please project is a good example of that multi-stakeholder engagement towards a common objective. My last question, and it's not a trick question, ideally environmental protection should rank above political and other divides in South Asia. But politics and geopolitics tend to overshadow regional cooperation. How do you rise above? How do you get your member countries, member governments to rise above geopolitics, to work together in the enlightened self-interest for environmental management? How hard is it for you as an intergovernmental body?
Well, Lalaka, nothing is above geopolitics, no? And having said this, we at the SACEP Secretariat, we feel lucky that our member countries look at the mandate and the role of SACEP. The activities, the projects that we carry out are seen as developmental projects, are seen as projects that are worth implementing, that are needed by the people, the 2 billion people in our region. And so as the DG, this support, like for instance, very recently we had the regional roundtable here in Colombo, which was represented by all the member countries, and you were there as the moderator, and you have heard the heads of the delegations committing, each one of them committing their own commitment and dedication to make this regional collaboration, cooperation active. And so yes, there will be challenges. I'm not very naive to say that there will be no problem at all. There will be problems, there will be challenges. And it is in moments of these challenges, such as the one that we are facing right now today, that moments like this call for greater value for SACEP to play that role, to bring and keep the region together and help build bridges and prevent bridges being burned. So that is an important role any intergovernmental organizations must take on themselves. And we at SACEP definitely, we will look out for opportunities. We will grab opportunities for intergovernmental or member countries to come together to collaborate on such an important area such as climate change and environmental challenges, which is at a crisis level that does not receive the priority that it demands.
Indeed. We have one question that has come through our Q&A. Looks at the future, near future. What is your vision for SACEP's role in strengthening regional cooperation on environmental issues over the next 5 years?
So
How would you respond?
that's a very good, that's a very great question, Nalaka. And when we look into the European integration, and then a little lower down the ladder, we have the ASEAN integration. And then we here at the South Asia integration. I mean, when we look into just the economic trade volume amongst the region, European Union has about 60% of the trade amongst themselves. ASEAN has about 20% or 25% of the trade amongst themselves. And ours is a minuscule 4%. And we are losing on one of the World Bank, I think it's the World Bank estimates, that we are losing $40 billion opportunity cost that we could actually simply trade amongst ourselves, but that is the opportunity cost. So while this is a challenge, but this is also an opportunity, the promise that is there. In terms of the climate change and in terms of the environmental challenges that we are faced into, as we look into the future, as a DG, I would like to envision SACEP as an institution of reform, as an institution of value, as an institution that's able to deliver and bring the nations together and be an institution of excellence on climate change solutions and environment solutions.
Let me wrap up with one concern. You, I believe, are the first Bhutanese Director General of SACEP. You've come from the other end of South Asia to be based at the Secretariat in Colombo, Sri Lanka, which is South Asia. And yet you have to now grapple with this complexity and multitude of issues confronting our whole region. My question is very simple. What keeps you awake at night?
Nalaka, yes, there are a lot of challenges. Sometimes it becomes overwhelming when we think about the challenges we face globally and in our region. But since you mentioned that I come from Bhutan, and what I bring on the table is an inspiration to the rest of South Asian nation. And I say this because Bhutan, now many people who knows Bhutan as carbon negative, and we have 70% of the forest land under forest cover, 50% of our land, 52 to be exact, 52 protected, biological hotspot, and a country that has maybe, if I may use the word, sort of sacrificed the economy to tread a path what we call ourselves as gross national happiness, maybe sustainable development. And we had been successful in being able to uh, keep our environment pristine, our land clean, air crisp and clean, and water fresh. And this is done not by accident, not because we are small in size. This accomplishment had been because of leadership. It was a conscious, deliberate leadership that has gone in to envision a future for ourselves and chart a path for ourselves. And so when I look into what Bhutan has achieved, I see that this is a possibility that the world at large and our region possibly can be at least inspired to look into this chart with this road down the line with the right leadership.
Thank you. I think that's a good note on which to end our conversation. We were talking to Mr. Nobu Wanshuk, the Director General of South Asia Cooperative Environment Program, SACEP. Thank you very much, Mr. Wanshuk, and thank you to our participants.
Thank you, Nalaka, for having me.